Hello everyone, I guess hopefully you're having a wonderful day. Today we are back again with another Fanatics Weekly Review where I go through the top 100 soccer items auction over on their website. As always, if you enjoy these weekly reviews, do make sure to leave a like, I'd appreciate it greatly. With that said though, let's go ahead and swing on over. So, we're off and rolling. We're starting at 144 this week, about the number we've been at. Most of the time I'd say it's usually around 150. This week we start with the Kylian Mbappe Peacock Choice and a PSA 9 going for 144. We have a Merlin Thierry Henry from 2003, sort of the foiling going on there, and a PSA 9 for 144 with the pop 1 of 6, just one higher. I said one, it's actually two. Then we got a 52 chocolates here of Ben Barrack, pretty intimidating looking one at that. This goes for 150. I think we've seen those go in these auctions before, so it seems like a decent price considering only a 1.5 grade. Above that, KDB sticker from 2022 Select and a PSA 10 goes for 150. We have a Chronicles out of 10 gold laser Mo Salah. Obviously having quite the year himself, probably the Ballon d'Or winner to be, depending on how the end of the season rolls on here, but 150 for that one. It says gold, it's pretty hard to tell, but, I'll take their word for it. Mario Corso here, no clue to be honest, but Imperial Calcio, pretty hard in general, so if you're going after the player, PSA 8 is going to be quite the grade there, and gets quite the price, at least relative to the player. Above that, 2005, WCCF Messi. I wonder if this is English back, just out of curiosity. It is not, so that's the normal Japanese back there, but a foil and a 9 is probably semi-difficult. Generally, these were used in terms of from my understanding, an arcade game where you could like scan these guys in and basically play with them that way. I don't know a whole lot, I know that much. Nonetheless, usually the back's torn up. They got a black back, so it's really easy to have chipping and damage on the side, so a 9's going to be difficult. A 5 here, pretty typical. Again, this one also along the same lines, pretty easy to mess up. This 5, the cheapest and probably most accessible Messi rookie, goes for 156 in an excellent condition. Then we have the 62 Stella Pele in the small portrait redback, and a 4 goes for 162. Above that, an R9 rookie from 94, a 1.5 grade, goes for 168. The back on this one actually looked pretty good, generally speaking. The top, quite short. The bottom, it's also OC. Some of these were hand cut, from my understanding. Like, there were sheets that you can kind of get them in. So I don't know if that's why this still gets graded. To me, that border looks atrocious, and I'm sure that's a huge part in terms of why I got a 1.5. But the price itself seemed okay. I thought it was fair. I think generally a lot of people, or a lot of situations I see, the 1, 2, 3 grade stickers actually do get decent prices because, they're attainable, they're affordable. 160 isn't that crazy to get what is one of the more iconic R9 stickers, if not the most iconic. But I do think it's fairly strong when you think about, like PSA 6s or 5s sometimes go like, 400 to 600 maybe. So I think that's relatively good comparing to those. Next to it, we have a Green Wave Florian Wirtz RC, goes for 168 out of 99 and an SGC 9. Along with that, we have a Dolar here, a Rodolfo Orlandi in a PSA 2 that goes for 168, pop 1 of 1, none higher. Above that, the OG Maldini here, a PSA 7 of the Edizione Saddam, goes for 174, pop 1 of 1, none higher. We then have the 85 Adis Baggio rookie in a PSA 6 or Palomanelli, however you want to go about it. PSA pop 1 of 13, 9 higher. I do wonder when they stop putting this pop here. It's probably around 15, I think. I don't think I've ever seen higher than 15, but 13's, high, at least relative to most of the time where they actually write this out. But for Baggio sticker, not that crazy. Pop 1 of 13, 9 higher, goes for 174. We also have this Figueroa here from 1967 Crack that goes for 174 and a PSA 1, pop 1 of 1, none higher. Above that, Footballer Flash, Erling Haaland, sort of an insert from 2019 Topps Chrome. This goes for 174 and a PSA 10. Along with that, a Lamine Yamal in a PSA 9 from Obsidian out of 120. Goes for 174. Thought this was a decent price. Sometimes you'll see like 8s, maybe even 9s, maybe BGS 9s, but you'll see higher grades go for this price quite frequently, I would say. At least you used to, maybe not as much anymore. I guess I'll see as time goes on if this is normal or not, but this goes for 180 and a PSA 7. This is the second year Abyss here. Jared Muller in a 3 goes for 180, which is, decent price, I would say. It's not anything high. It's kind of high compared to some 1s we've seen go lately, but at the same time, this at one point in time probably would have been a little bit lower, so that's a decent price there at 180. A 68 Calciatore Pele. Decided to look this one up because we don't look up a lot of 60s Pele, but I was curious. This one goes for 180, same price as the last bin on eBay, which was a best offer, so, that's not a bad sign. If you do go back further, though, it's not the prettiest, I guess. A decent amount of $200+ sales in here, but, I mean, to be fair, if you go back to, 2023, there's a 172 there. But if you go before that, yeah, it gets pretty pricey during the booming days, of course. Keep in mind, there are Velita backs in here, so maybe I'm doing a bad job at that, letting those influence me. I mean, if you want to look at the lowest, there was 134 right here for one that was a year ago. That was also Velita back, my word. So maybe this isn't that bad of a sale. Initially, I thought it was a little worse, but that's not bad. I will say the colors from here, at least in a PSA 5, look really nice, so it's got that going for it. Sky's the limit. Cristiano Ronaldo here. PSA 10 goes for 186. Decent price to see there. I don't think we've ever seen one of those in this auction block. Above that, a 2016 Donruss Accomplishments Gold Messi here in a PSA 10 for 186. We have a Lamine Yamal out of 149 Red Wave. I did look that one up. I think I closed it, but ultimately, I mean, it's actually doing fairly well. This is held near this price for all of the sales, which I think go back a few months at this point, so not dropping by any means. It is around the same price as like Raws were doing when it first came out, but that's kind of to be expected. I mean, Raws are always going to do probably too high initially. A lot of people are going to send it to get graded. A lot of people are going to sell it, and so it kind of all works itself out. But 65 Pele Calciatore in a 3 for 192 ends off the first page here. On to page 3, we start with the Jude Aqua out of Sapphire 2020. Goes for 192 in a PSA 10, along with a Jude Stained Glass in a PSA 9 for 192. Then we have an Erling Haaland Shadow Box out of 30. I know like white box and black box are like sort of make goods from Panini. I don't know if Shadow Boxes as well. If so, out of 30 is not really all that grand, but so be it. 1966 Calciatore PSA 7 goes for 198 here. This is an interesting story. Again, there's Velita backs. I probably should have just done minus Velita, but just look past them. A PSA 7 2023 did 312 here. We also have some a little bit earlier, 200 here in 2023, 312, and then 15 all the way back when. So, I mean, from the all-time highs, it's only down, maybe 30%, which isn't terrible. And from pre-boom to now, it's up, 13, 14x. So, yeah, not doing all too shabby, I would say. Pop 1 of 10, 3 higher on that PSA 7. Next to it, you have the top half of a Messi here from 2007, Panini FC Barcelona. I mean, seems like a decent price for a half of a Messi, considering you can get like PSA 10 S days sometimes for, a few $100, but nonetheless, pop 1 of 2, 3 higher. I'm guessing the pop 1 of 2 definitely plays a factor there. Kai Havertz, Black Velocity. Didn't mean to click on that, but we have an out of 25 here in a PSA 9 for 210. Doesn't seem like a terrible price. I mean, at one point in time, he was pretty hobby relevant. Not the case as much anymore, but still, I think, doing okay. To be honest, I don't watch a lot of Arsenal, so my apologies if that's wrong. 2023 Select Winter Camo Messi out of 99. A PSA 10 goes for 222. Doesn't strike me as crazy high price for PSA 10, a field level as well, and also kind of a color match. I don't know if you want to, word it that way. I wouldn't blame you. Next to it, a Jude Bellingham from the Topps Gio Reyna set. There you go. That's how he gets into these auction blocks. Out of 49, PSA 10 goes for 228. I was going to say it looks like it's on card, but let's be honest. Is it, though? Is it, though? It is? Nope, I thought it was. It is not. Well, that's sad. Anyways, doing what it's going to do. 228 there on the PSA 10. Next to it, Maldini PSA 7 goes for 228, his rookie Calciatore. Look this one up. And compared to some past sales, there was a low of 158 here, and there's a low of 126 back in 2022. So other than this fixed price, which is kind of out of line, this is a really good sale. There's been a couple higher than it since 2022, but really, it kind of brings you all the way back to early 2022 in regard to pricing. So pretty good sale there. From some of the highest sales, it is probably down 50+%, 50-ish. But again, what isn't, especially in something like vintage and a pretty plentiful sticker, at least relative to a lot of vintage. There was a discussion about that in the vintage Discord. Again, link down below. I always love plugging that. But where do you classify vintage? Is this vintage? For me, I guess I would class it more as pre-modern, but for some reason the 85 Baggio and Maldini's just sort of like seem vintagey to me. I don't know what it is. I just, I get a little murky with it. But some people say 1970s, some people say 1980s, some people push it as far as 1990s and even 2000s before you class something as vintage. I don't know. Personally, for me, I think 79 is a good cutoff. That's typically sort of what I think of when I think of vintage, anything prior compared to pre-modern, anything post, but that's just my interpretation of it. Above that, an orange Lamine Yamal out of 49 and a PSA 9 goes for $228. We have a Messi Blue Mosaic out of 99 and a PSA 10 for $234. And then finally a Gabriel Manga from 2023 Premier League Prism and a 10 for $234. Only 7 watchers there, so impressive that it gets into this auction block. 10 watchers on the Super Calcio of Thierry Henry and a PSA 9 in a pop 1 of 3 going for $240. We then have a Cristiano Ronaldo patch, Tools of the Trade, and a PSA 8 gold out of 5 for $252. I'm just going to assume it's not game worn. If it is, my apologies to Panini Chronicles. But along with that, a Maradona and a 1 for $252. I mean, not a bad price again. Probably lower than some that have gone lately, but I mean, given the centering, that's kind of justified, I would say. Still better than some of the lower sales we saw during what seemingly looks like the bottom of the market, but $252 on that one. Doesn't strike me as all that bad considering the pretty, abhorrent centering. Above that, a CB Fry. Apologies, I can't add a whole lot here, but a PSA 2 with 23 watchers, so, fairly decent in terms of watchers, goes for $252. We have a Campione Messi, $276 on this PSA 6, which, again, decent price point on a Messi rookie. Those have been doing pretty good as of late. And then we have a 1910 Wills Billy Meredith in a PSA 2. This goes for $276. Tried to look it up, couldn't really find any comps, so we're just going to leave it at that. Platini in a 1.5 going for nearly $300. I did look at the back of this, and man, it was a nice looking back, nice looking front. I mean, it's pretty well centered, got good colors. You look at the back, and it does actually, I kind of like zoomed in a little bit. I'm pretty sure that's just like the, what do they call it? It happens a lot in comic books. I can't remember, but this is just like a slab effect that happens every now and then. I'm really trying to think of what it is, but I can't. Above that, though, you can kind of see paper loss up here. I'd say that's where you're kind of seeing it. Like here, you can see some distortion in the paper. You can definitely see some lettering missing. A lot of the time they don't catch it or, just grade it as is anyways. But in this case, I guess for some reason or another, they actually, were pretty harsh on it. And I think it's fair. $288 makes sense. I'm somewhat interested if someone's just going to like keep cracking and resubbing that in hopes that one time, someone just doesn't notice or they give in. But $288 on that, really strong sale, I would say. Beyond that, Franz Beckenbauer Auto 10 PSA 6 from his second year here goes for $288. Along with a matchups, decent amount of watchers there, 32. Along with the matchups, PSA 9, Messi Ronaldo, going for $288, the base and a 9. Above that, we have a Gianni Rivera here. This says rookie. It's actually second year. SGC 8 goes for $300. This is kind of low, at least compared to the only other sale I could find in terms of comps, which was like 2 weeks ago maybe, and that was a 5 that went for the same price. So kind of just what happens when something comes out for the first time ever in a med grade and sells. If one does come out later in a high grade and sells, it's probably going to get the same price that the med grade did. It's just sort of the way things work because everyone's so excited for the first one. And then the second one, people are excited, but also probably then wondering, is there higher to come? I don't know. But this is a really cool looking one in an 8 as well. I don't know if the back, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. It's definitely a different back compared to most things you would expect to see. There's a little bit wrong with the line there, but that's nothing egregious. Pretty cool, sizable piece that you probably wouldn't see too often in early 60s Italy. Merlin Heritage Red Messi SGC 10 goes for $300. Sort of struck me as a low price. Now this is Topps and it's not Topps Chrome, so it's, to most a lesser product, and in terms of price, the same thing. But a 10 here going for $300 when it's an out of 10 red color match. Kind of low, at least I thought. I looked it up. Last PSA 10 did $400, so not a huge discount on that. This same one, I think it's the same one to be fair. I didn't check, but it's an SGC 10, and we've seen an SGC 10 sell now 4 times. Initially for $240, $450, $384, $252. So this is, in the middle towards the bottom of the sales comp. So I guess nothing crazy really going on there. Finally, a Beckenbauer 4, the Sicker Verlag here going for $300. These have always gotten pretty decent prices, at least from my mind. I don't know what a 4 Beckenbauer Bergman would do at this point, but at one point in time, they'd probably do somewhat close to that. So those are doing really good as of late. There was a time where those I thought were pretty cheap, and they seem to come back a good bit. Next to that, or Next page, we do have a 2017 field level checkerboard, Kylian Mbappe and a 9 for 300. You have this PSA 10 Messi Este, which is what I was sort of referencing earlier. I'd rather pay $100 and get this compared to the half Messi that we saw, but it's probably, I would assume it's people going for PSA set registry that are buying like a half Messi for nearly this price. Only 16 watchers here, which isn't all that strong for a PSA 10 Este, but beyond that, Red Wave Lamine Yamal out of 149 and a 10 goes for 300. We have a Montegum 78 Hugo Sanchez for 324. I did take a peek, and this is quite the story. So pre-boom, $34. During the boom, peak boom, 2,100. Now 300. So quite the fall. Not the greatest thing to see, but in terms of pre-boom to now, still up 10x. So I think it's quite a story to learn from. Not that we haven't had enough examples of that. I'm sure we all know at this point. But when you do compare to recent sales, there's only been 2 of these to sell in the last year and a half. That's pretty crazy. And the last ones to sell were a 1.5, a 1.5, a 2, a 1.5. Now I guess the last 8 in 2022, granted this was probably in the Golden World Cup auction, so that probably went under the radar for 600. So honestly, that 600 looks like a pretty good deal comparatively when none of them have sold since. And I think 324 actually looks like a pretty good deal if you're trying to go for a high-grade Hugo Sanchez rookie. So good stuff there. We got a variation green Lamine Yamal out of 99 for 324. The Baggio Calcio Flash and a 7 goes for 324. Looked this one up. Last one was 468 a year ago. Before that in 2022, 432. And before that, 1,021. So this one still hasn't seemingly found its bottom yet, which is interesting because it's not all that common. As you can see, there was only 4 sales there in a 7 grade. Gonna take a look and see what some, comparables are doing in terms of maybe lower grades. You see a 3 here for 150, but then you see a 5 for 150. You see a 4 for 150. To me, it doesn't seem like a bad deal on the 7 there. I guess the last 8 did do 600, so, sort of makes sense. Seems relatively in line, but I would err towards thinking more so that was a deal rather than an overpay by some regard. 46 watchers as well, pretty hefty there on a pop 1 of 5, 6 higher. Paolo Rossi, see these a good amount of the time. PSA 7 goes for 324. Feels like they always do a decent number, which is interesting. Again, we have the Gerd Muller here. This one does nearly the same price as the Beckenbauer, but it is 4 grades higher, so obviously quite the distinguishing factor there. Pop 1 of 7, 1 higher, goes for 324. Purple Pulisic PSA 10 for 324 here. I'm always sort of impressed by what some of these unnumbered Donruss do, but 324 there is a decent number. I think it's up from some of the other sales. I did check it out, at least over the last couple years. We have an Alberto here. It goes for 336 in a PSA 1 miscut. Quite the interesting card. I didn't give it a peek earlier. Kind of gives you more of a 60s vibe, but I guess we're coming right into the 70s. Really cool with the flags in the background. That's pretty nice looking, I won't lie. Back's all right, too. Really, really cool looking. Goes for 336. Presumably pretty low pop. I've never seen anything like that before. Also, only 8 watchers, so that's something of note as well. This Monday Chromo in a 5 goes for 336 with 20 watchers there. Doesn't strike me as a high or low price. I would probably rather take this than like the top Liga that sometimes I think we saw earlier goes for like 250 maybe or something of the sort. I think the top Liga went for 150, so really they're not in the same ballpark, but I do like the Monday Chromo. It's kind of gotten, not a lot of love as of late, which to be fair, it is sort of like a low production cost type of card. Like it definitely is not a modern card in terms of production, but I think it looks pretty good. It's got nice colors, got a nice border. It's pretty classic looking, at least to me. 2020 Merlin Chrome Jude Gold in a 9 goes for 350. Decided to look this one up because we don't look up a lot of Jude, and this one stands out to me at least. A gold Merlin Chrome, sort of a color match. Looks really nice. Last sale, well, this one was 350. Last sale before that, 286, 300, 405. So up a little bit over the last couple sales there. If we go back to all-time high pricing, nearly like 500, and that was probably just a sale in there. So pretty good price, I would say, and he's held on fairly well. Obviously, I would think being at Madrid probably helps that, but even if you go back to 2022 in May, a jersey number 1 did 325. So yeah, doing really nice there. We got the Grail Erling Haaland PSA 10. We saw one of those last week, so I'm somewhat in the know. Typically, 10s seem to do between 250 and 400 probably, so this is in the range. We have a Select Kaboom Kevin De Bruyne. It goes for 360. I feel a bit ashamed. I'm going to go take a peek at this one. So we give it a peek. A PSA 9 here goes for 360, which is up over the last couple sales. Again, 250, 288, so that's quite a bit up. 347. There's a high of 435. But generally, I mean, gosh, you go all the way back. It probably takes until 2022, 2021, where you're seeing like consistently, I don't know, 500, 700. So it's definitely down from 2022, 2021, but only, again, 50%. I say only 50%. It's not great, don't get me wrong, but compared to the all-time highs, not bad. We don't get any pre-boom pricing here, so nothing we can really take from that. But, I mean, in January 2021, it was a $375 card. It's still nearly $375, so coming from the peak, absolute peak of most modern soccer, it's not bad. Also, Kevin De Bruyne probably, a little lackluster as of late in terms of Man City's performances. Also, he sort of seems like he's on the, down slope of the career. So, not a bad price, all things considered. Beyond that, we have a $1 Pedro Ochoa here, a PSA 1, pop 1 of 1, 1 higher, goes for $360, 26 watchers there as well. We have a 58 Bremer Fakring Pele Vava here, celebrating in goal. I don't know who scored the goal, but nonetheless, pop 1 of 1 in a 5.5 grade. I mean, not going to be easy to get the half grades there, but 4 higher goes for $372. I mean, to me, if you're trying to put together PSA set registry Pele stuff, that does not seem like a bad one. $372 there for a 5.5 and a pop 1 of 1 4 higher. That seems pretty good. Domingo Tarasconi here, a $1 from 25 goes for $396. A classed rookie. I do not know, and I don't think Fanatics knows if I had to guess, but nonetheless, pop 1 of 1 none higher goes for nearly $400. We have one that I can actually consider a rookie here. That's a Kaká from 2002 Panini Campeonato Brasileiro. This in a 2 goes for $400. I didn't look that one up. I feel ashamed. I should look that one up too. I'm going to look up PSA 2s. We'll see if any come up. That's going to be hard. Yeah, so the last PSA 2 in 2023, I actually did $375 on a best offer. So getting above best offer price on a PSA 2 from, a year and a half ago, not bad, I would say. Pretty good price there. 40 watchers as well. Don't see those go all too often, so I think that probably helps it as well. Above that, a PSA 9 Messi from 2006 Panini goes for $408. You have a rose gold that goes out of 75, PSA 10 for $432. And then finally a winter camo out of 99 for $456. The rose gold is such a chintzy way to go ahead and basically get a color match without actually saying it's a color match. It's pretty egregious. This Pernod here, a Raymond Copa rookie SGC2. This is actually a different copy to the SGC2 we saw run just a couple weeks ago. I found it interesting. I thought maybe it was a rerun. It was not. This one goes for, I think it was a little less. I don't want to say for certain, but I'm pretty sure it was maybe a couple $100 less, which again, if you run something this rare right after the original one ran, it's usually not going to do higher. So 2020 Stadium Club Chrome, Cristiano Ronaldo, Orange Blue Electric out of 10 goes for $552. Pretty good price on that. Obviously, you got the iconic celebration going there, so I do get that, but Orange Blue Electric, sort of random. But if you're putting together the rainbow or whatever it may be, I mean, I can totally understand it. Pop 1 of 4, 3 higher. And then finally, this Baresi goes for $564, which coming off that PSA 8 sale that went for huge numbers. I think it was like 3,800 or something. Obviously, this seems a bit low compared to that, but the last PSA 4 Calcio Flash from 78 Baresi did do, I think it was like 450 maybe, so this is up over the last sale by a pretty significant margin, so not bad there. And that takes us to page 1. So we start with the Jamal Musiala out of 50 gold for $564, PSA 10. Feels like a pretty good price. I mean, Jamal Musiala is sort of one of the more, I would say, maybe not underrated. I mean, when you have golds out of 50 doing nearly $500-600, is that underrated? Probably not. I mean, especially, you got a Jared Muller rookie here, nearly the same price in a 6. But I would say he's one of those hobby players that doesn't get a ton of hobby buzz, but certainly could at some point. I think Bayern in general probably just isn't a good place for hobby players to really flourish because there's not a ton of hobby buzz that ever really happens there unless they win a Champions League or something of the sort or a World Cup per se. Nonetheless, feels like a decent price compared to what I said just a bit ago. $564 is not, it's not a forgotten card by any means. Next to that, a Libonati here from the 27 Lirati set and a PSA 4. I didn't notice that. That's a pretty good grade. This goes for $690. It did do higher than the last sale, but I also didn't check if I closed it because I was like, oh, okay, there was only one other sale. It was like $400. This is higher. Nice. I didn't check if it was the same PSA grade, and it wasn't. It couldn't have been. Pop 1 of 1 just went higher. So it's higher than the last sale, but given the grade, that might not mean a lot. So the Rowdy set has been doing pretty good. A PSA 4 there is stellar. These are blank bags, so you always wonder with blank back if they're, paying as close attention as possible to any sort of paper loss. 65 Bergman PSA 6 goes for $720 here. Speaking of, on here they certainly weren't. I did look at the back. This actually sold a little light, which made me intrigued and also made me look, but I mean, you can clearly sort of see some sort of paper loss going on here. The text is pretty clearly not all there, and it's sort of the typical thing you'll see where I'm assuming someone pasted that corner, this corner, and that's where you're seeing most of the paper loss occur. So, it goes for $720, and in terms of comps, I just closed the comps on it, so you'll have to forgive me. But that's actually not that bad, considering basically, I think the last sales were like 900, 1,000, 1,100, so it's been lingering around 1,000. This is certainly down from those sales, but given the back and given the card, you could definitely argue this is a PSA 2, probably. So $720 for a PSA 2 would be pretty strong. Granted, it's a 6, but nonetheless. Keeping it moving, Ruben Diaz 1 of 1 from Impeccable goes for $750 and a 9. We have a Matthias de Ligt in a PSA 9, goes for $750 there. The Nebula Choice from 2022 Prism World Cup. Along with that, you have a White Sparkle Messi from 2023 Select PSA 10 for $780. People do love themselves some White Sparkle, and don't get me wrong, looks good with the Argentina kit as well, I will give it that. Beyond that, an authentic Aquarella here goes for $810. Seems like a decent sale. Does it say evidence of trimming? I think it does. Given that's the case, it doesn't seem bad at all. I feel like we've seen ones linger around this price before, so not a bad sale. Beyond that, a Phil Foden out of 25, Black Velocity, $810 on that one. Doesn't strike me as a crazy price. I'm sure if you went back and looked at the Booming Days pricing on that, it's probably down a good bit. Phil Foden, not the hobby darling he once was, but still, somewhat of a hobby favorite within England, I would imagine. Pele PSA 10 here from 2022 World Cup, 10 on the card, 10 on the auto, goes for $990. Then we have an Erling Haaland Chrome PSA 10. It goes for $1,020. I did look this one up. I do, now that I think about it, I would have to imagine that Card Ladder does have this in their search history or in their ladder here, so we can look at the full thing. And it's not the prettiest, is it? It's not the prettiest. It starts at 2,300, and we're currently at about 1,000, so down 55% from the origin. And, Haaland, has he really been that good of a player since then? I mean, no, what's he done, really? It's so silly to me, and this is why I talk about Lamine Yamal and sort of harp on it, and I know it's not what people want to hear, but man, prospecting, when this type of stuff occurs, it just never really makes sense, because honestly, soccer holistically as a hobby is a lot further than where it was in 2020, I would have to say. And so, from 2020, we've gained a lot of people in this space, and Haaland's done amazing things. Granted, he hasn't won a Ballon d'Or, but, he broke the Premier League scoring record, won a treble, won the Premier League, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. Forgive me, I don't remember how many. It sort of all blurs together, but he's done pretty good, I would say. I think he already has broken, if not tied, Zlatan's UCL goal scoring, and he's, on pace to basically break all of the other players' records in UCL. He's doing amazing things. And his rookie's down 55% from the boom. And this is also a card, granted, I do think that refractors nowadays probably aren't getting a lot of love. I mean, these more modern products, refractors are basically meaningless, so I think that probably doesn't help. But that's sort of where the hobby's trending over time. You need a rarer and rarer and rarer card every single year, and eventually it's just going to be like people that have 1 of 1s or out of 10s are the only people that can post a card, and people are going to be like, oh, that's a nice card. But I can see why refractors don't matter. But back then, refractors mattered. Because you look at this, I mean, the colors from Bundesliga Chrome in this year, you have green, you have gold, you have orange, you have red, you have a super. That's literally it. You don't have anything else. And so a refractor is pretty meaningful. It's only a pop 145. And this thing's down to the same price that foosball stickers in a 10 were at just not long ago. And those foosball stickers in a 10, they're like a pop 1,000 probably. So to me, this seemed really cheap. And the more surprising part, I guess, is that this hasn't sold in 4 months almost, 3-4 months, and goes down 40%. So brutal sale there. Could be a good price if you're trying to get into it, but nonetheless, still, it's still high up on this weekly. Don't get me wrong. We're still on the first page. He's still top 20 in terms of the weekly. Not that it was a strong weekly, but just all to say that, man, prospecting, huh? Beyond that, 2021, a Volcanic, Cristiano Ronaldo out of 5, goes for $1,200. They're a bit of an eyesore in terms of the card, at least to my eyes, but, to each their own. We have a 2014 Pulsar Cristiano Ronaldo. This is unnumbered. It's from the National, but it's apparently out of 55, so it's more rare than the purple, less rare than the green crystal. Does 1,300 and a pop 1 of 8 for higher. In terms of past comps, it did 1,200, 1,000, 1,200, 1,700, 2,000, 1,300, 870, and, well, that 870 is a PSA 8, I guess. So it does seem to be down from some of the sales in 2023, maybe even in 2024, but it's up over the last couple sales, so somewhere in the middle, not too shabby there. We will see a Messi a little later. Also 70 watchers, sort of intriguing to note. Beyond that, a record Pele here, 43 watchers, goes for 1,800, and a PSA 8. We've talked about these. These are down pretty significantly, and that is not a good sale either. That goes for 1,800 with both Pele and Garrincha, and a decent bit of a border. We then have a Kaboom Messi for 2,100. Okay, I was going to say I better have looked this one up. This goes for 2,100, and it's one of the higher prices. I mean, you can see it's definitely up from 2023, where some of the sales were 1,500, 1,600, so up a good bit from there. Down from the all-time peak in 2021 at like 2,500, let's say. So it's down a little bit, but, compared to most things, doing pretty good. Back in April 2020, $147, so, just throwing that out there. But overall, doing pretty good. Tie-dye here from 2015 out of 30 and a PSA 10 for 2,200. Not many comps here to look at, but again, within the range. 2022, it went for 2,100, so it's basically smack dab on that pricing. You had a couple sales closer to 3,000, so down from there, but you also have a sale here at 1,700, so again, right in the middle. A Chrome Orange Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm just looking up everything at this point, because all of them are kind of fun in their own regard. 2017 Orange out of 25 and a 9. This one, it does 2,800. Last sale, it was 3,700. And you really can't find many other sales. The rest of them I found were autos, and his autos from this set are pretty disgusting. A lot of them go really far off stickers, so... down a good bit from last sale, but last sale was a best offer, so, you got to consider that. Still down a decent bit, but, overall not terrible, I guess. I'd be interested what a gold does, but I already closed the tab, so, what are you going to do? Gold Erling Haaland here out of 10. We got a gold to look up from 2019. It says 2019 Immaculate. I mean, man, to my eyes, this was 2020. This was released so long after all the other cards, but apparently it's 2019-2020 season. They snuck it in at the end. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. And SGC and BGS label this as 2019-2020. PSA, I'm pretty sure labels it as 2020. Nonetheless, this goes for 3,100, and that is brutally low compared to the other comps. Granted, we haven't had a comp in 3 years, so people have been holding these close to the vest. But, last 9 did 14,400. Granted, it's a half grade higher and BGS slab, but, how much of a difference does that make? You can decide that on your own. PSA 8 back in the day was nearly 8,000. Nearly 8,000 here, and... not great. Haaland's down a lot again, but, if you can convince yourself that that's a 2019-2020 card, that's not a bad card. To my eyes, that's not a bad card. 3,000 though, obviously still a decent price, but, for one of the best players of the current moment, I would say it's not terrible. Of course, he is tied to City, and he is tied to City for what would seem to be a pretty long time. So, if you're not a City fan or if you hate City, that's not necessarily the greatest thing now, is it? Beyond that, this was a huge sale. This Adis Calciatori Prismatic Maradona at 10 goes for 3,200. It's got sort of a foil finish going on from the 80s, which is super, super rare. Looks really good here in this picture. In hand, it looks also pretty good. I would say it looks better than a lot of the other 80s stuff, which is just sort of plain, but... just looking around to see how it looks and see if it was deserving of a 10. I guess you'll never really know since you don't have it in hand, but looks all right. Nothing's a standout miss in terms of my eyes. Pop 1 of 1, none higher. That's, obviously none higher, but that's going to do a decent number, and it sure did. 3,200. PSA 9s have gone for 500 to 600, and don't quote me on it. I think it's around a pop 10, maybe 12, something like that in PSA 9, so this is sort of a standout. Now, as always, if another pop came in, if this became a pop 3, I do think that this would probably drop to 1,500, 2,000 pretty quickly. But as long as it stays pop 1 of 1, that seems like a deserved premium. But will it stay pop 1 of 1? I'm not sure. I am interested. Okay, so this did very recently get graded. So that's a newbie into the pop, which again sort of, harkens back to the concern that maybe a 10 could come in soon as well. Beyond that, Aquarella here, a PSA 4 for 3,600 is quite a low price. You don't see a lot of that in terms of what we can look at. we have a graph, nice and digestible here. The lowest price we did see was last May for $3,100, so it is up from there. It's also up from this sale, $3,500, but as you can see, it is down from most of the other sales in this chart. So not the best look over the last couple years. Yeah, I mean, still down a little bit, but not terrible, I guess. I mean, I don't know, 37% isn't great, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, from here, this was a top percent eye appeal back in 2023, and that only did 4,200. So, interesting to say the least. This is a Pop 24, which honestly, for the Aquarella being one of the most common, Pop 24 isn't astounding. Granted, there's a lot of different pops around it, but nonetheless, hasn't been doing a whole heck of a lot lately, but I guess not dropping drastically, so that's probably good. 91 watchers there as well, which is very interesting. I think this is one of the few soccer examples where it just sort of has like cross-sport appeal, and I think it's mostly due to the photo, the color. It just looks really nice. I think that it just is a standout to a lot of people in general, which is sort of, even more so founded in that 91 watchers. Next to that, we got a nice 69 watchers here on this Lionel Messi 2018 Eminence. You gotta love it, huh? Talk of the town nowadays. This one goes for, a low price comparatively to what it was doing during the boom. Obviously, it has sort of the coat hanger auto going on here with the straight L, the straight E's, all that good stuff. So, these haven't been doing all that great lately, of course, due to some of the concerns of the autograph, but even beyond that, we'll talk more about it here in a second. I think there's another Eminence later, actually at the National Treasures. But, I mean, in terms of this Eminence, what I would say, and maybe why these haven't done as well either, I mean, one, you clearly have the concern with the auto, but two, you have more competition nowadays. I mean, Messi's signing a ton. He's just, buddy-buddy with Topps/Fanatics, so he's signing as much as they can get him to sign, which is probably why he has his brother do it sometimes. But beyond that, I mean, you have like 2022 Eminence to compete with this, which you didn't before, and 2022 Eminence has what seem to be legitimate Messi autos with a World Cup winning year, and those go sometimes for like, $5,000. So would I rather have 2018 or 2022? I mean, at this point, I'd definitely rather have 2022, and it's not a huge premium over it, so kind of seems like a gimme. But just my thoughts on the situation there with that price. Beyond that, Velita PSA 7 Blue Eusebio here goes for $4,300 in a PSA 7. Took a look at that. You don't see many high Velita backs in PSA grading going, and this actually does do a premium over the last one. Was this an eye appeal sticker? It was. This was top 30% as well. So, yeah, I mean, very comparable to this one back here, and does a nice $600 more. I did see in the Vintage Discord, again, I already plugged it, but, I'll mention it again. Someone had a little bit of concern on whether the back was stuck, as there was a little bit of some sort of, like color loss here. You can see it a little bit up here in the A. You can kind of see it here in some of the Magnifici, but, it's probably sporadic throughout. You always have to look at this type of stuff. Again, PSA doesn't do a great job with it. Trying not to look at the eyesore of a sticker up there on the top, but it is what it is. Always, I mean, basically, I would say always when you're buying a PSA card, especially if it's higher grade, especially if it's big money, take a look at the back and just save yourself the time and the effort. I mean, it is so worth it. And then we get to the top three. A full row of Messis here. Take your pick of the bunch. You got a red Inception out of 10 here. The perfect 10. This goes for $4,300. Did I look it up? I looked up two of these. Was that the one? I did not. But I do remember this selling before, and I do remember it selling for a lot, so I don't think that this is like some drastic uptick or downtick, but still a pretty decent price here. Cool photo, 2020, red out of 10, goes for $4,300. People love Inception, so it's going to do a good number. Next to it, you have the blue Pulsar Messi. This, obviously, being the same version of the card that we saw from Ronaldo earlier. Unnumbered, but out of 55. PSA 9 goes for $4,900. Of course, here you have the sort of color match going on. And $4,900, quite the price. In terms of the last sales, best offer, the last one was $3,000. Before that, $2,700. $4,500, $7,100. So, quite the swing there in pricing. But, I mean, nearly double this price in 2022 Golden, and up $2,000 from this best offer. So that's quite the move in pricing. Of course, when you don't have a card sell for nearly 2 years, it's a Messi from 2014, nearly a color match. I mean, got a lot of things going for it, and the price definitely sort of aligns itself with that. So pretty good sale there, I would say. Takes us as close as we can get back to 2021 pricing, which, kind of says a lot for the card, I would say. And then finally, we have the 2018 National Treasures Century Bronze Lionel Messi Auto Jersey number. Got the whole shebang going there. This one's probably one of the more egregious in terms of autos, but again, the coat hanger going on. You also have a really straight L, which kind of goes into the E in a weird way. It's a brutal look, but it is an on-card auto. It is presumably match-worn. I'm just going to, that's player-worn, ew. That's, ew. 10 out of 10. So you got the jersey number, but you have what is sort of a fake patch in a way, in the sense that it is not game-worn. You also have the questionable auto. So while this is National Treasures and has all the brand name behind it, it is missing some of the fundamentals. Nonetheless, gets the top of the auction block. So who needs fundamentals when you got a Messi out of 10 card, jersey number, and a National Treasures card? I mean, it's got it all. Pop 1 to 4, one higher. Interesting to see, nonetheless. Looking at this row, I mean, even though this was up 2,000, I could kind of see why you might take it. Because for me, if I had to pick in this row, that's probably where I'm going. Inception Red looks good as well. I'd probably take both of them over this auto at this point, but that's just me. Pretty good auction, though. I mean, fun towards the top, fun in between. Hopefully you had a grand old time. We'll take a look at next week as well. I haven't looked yet, so I'm interested to see what we got. We got this Kylian Mbappe Select Gold that's going for nearly 15K at the moment. I don't know if this is a rerun. Don't quote me on that. But we did see one of these go recently, so that's sort of interesting. Beyond that, we have an Arsenio Arico from 34, already at 2,500. And Mbappe out of 8 pink, my word, goes for 4,000 at the moment. Kylian Mbappe 2022 auto, a PSA 6 Bis. You got a gold Heung-min Son, a PSA 2 Palarex, another Messi. Oh my. Probably not going to top this auction block. That's out of 5. You have a PSA 6 Beckenbauer. Let's just take a look at the back. Get it out of the way, huh? What do you say? This back looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. All right. I'll give it to them. They got that one. That one is not as bad as the Bergman from Moeller we saw last week. You got a Billy Bassett here from 1896, another questionable Messi. A little Pulisic, a little Ronaldo, two of the greatest to ever do it. Pele as well. Why not? 3 goats, 1 row. And yeah, tons of fun stuff next week. Hopefully you're excited. As always, I know I am interested and surely going to be on the lookout. As always, again, if you enjoyed the video, do make sure to leave a like. Would appreciate it greatly. Anything you thought sold high, low, maybe something you snagged, would love to hear about it and comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day and peace.